and welcome to episode 126 of She Leads Confidently. I'm Karen Barno, your host. Today, let's talk about shadow work in leadership and women leaderships, leading with authenticity and resilience. And this kind of frames around my book, Blue Rose Bookstore, Sanctuary for Your Soul, available on Amazon, where we go into this woman's journey. Annie takes a journey to discover who she was. As a woman leader, she had trauma in her past, and just being a woman leader, she lost her confidence, she lost her resilience, she forgot who she was. She lost who she was, so she stepped into climbing this mountain to rediscover herself. And a lot of it is shadow work because, have you ever felt like you're holding yourself back, that you're filled with self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, you don't raise your hand? That's why we're going to talk about shadow work. A shadow work are these unexplored parts of your soul that are buried deep. Something that could have been said to you when you were 5 years old and you forgot about it and it got buried within. I always tell a story when I was a little girl, my Nana was a little chubby woman, and oh my God, she was the best Nana in the world. And she was probably 4'8", 4'9", maybe 4'10", and she was round and she was a big hug of love. Drove my mother crazy because my mother was thin and tall. Her mother drove her crazy. And so she said to me once, you're just like your Nana. You have the fat gene. I loved my Nana. I took that as a compliment. But as I got older and wrestled with my weight, I couldn't figure out why I had trouble losing weight until I realized it's the fat gene. My mom had me so convinced that the weight wasn't my problem. It was just because I was like my Nana, who I loved. So that's a shadow, and I had to learn how to uncover the parts that I buried away. There's also, I have trauma in my past. And when I started going through the healing process of that, when I decided I had to quit drinking because I drank way too much, I had to look back at these repressed pieces of my soul that I buried. It's the kind of the yucky, gucky stuff you don't want to look at. But when you look at it and you heal it, it truly is life-changing. When I quit drinking 2 years ago, I can't believe how different I am. I can't believe how different I am today than who I was December 2023. I can't believe it. I looked at what the goals I set, December 2023, early January 2024 to who I am now, and it's amazing how much I have gone through, how I've developed better emotional resiliency, how I was able to gather more empathy and tell a better story about myself, about who I wanted to be. That meant a lot to me because I was burying this story. And let me give you some examples of a shadow trait, especially for women leaders. You're a people pleaser. You say yes to everything. Yes, I can do that committee. Yes, I can be on that committee. Yes, I can attend that meeting. And before you realize you've said yes, or your people come in and they kind of, in your perception, a little bit, harsh or something. It's like, yes, I'll do that. Or you over control it. I'm in charge of everything. This used to be me. Everything has to run through me because I was so afraid of vulnerability and I couldn't trust that I wanted to be in charge of everything. And so that didn't work out. So I had to realize that I couldn't over control. I couldn't keep stepping back when guys who were taller than me would get in my face. I would step back and cower. And I had to heal that shadow to realize, even though they might be taller than me or bullies or angry or anything, I realized I am an adult woman. I am a badass woman and I can take care of my own business. So it took me a while to realize that, and I had to heal those shadows. So when you do the shadow work, the first thing you need to do is identify the trigger. What situation or people make you feel defensive, anxious, frustrated, fearful? That I still, when I get around a certain male type, it triggers me to go into fear, and then I have to get myself out of it. So look for patterns. What are the patterns that are triggering these events that you can't get around the same person, the same incident, the same color? It could be anything. It could be every time you see the color green, something happens, or the color yellow, or somebody just, their laugh, and you get around that certain laugh, it flips a switch, and that triggers you to react. And then you got to practice self-honesty. You got to sit with yourself and say, okay, I got to heal this. I realized if I was ever going to quit drinking, and if I was ever going to become the woman I wanted to become, if I was ever going to get this darn book written that took me 10 years, if I was ever going to lose all the weight I want to lose, if I ever wanted to be a good representation to women leaders of what is possible in their life, excuse me, to help them, excuse me, ignite their possibilities, then I had to change. I had to heal all this crap. I had to look at the stuff I didn't want to look at. And I had to get out my 7-step Blue Rose framework to go through those steps to start healing. And, some of these, like the fat gene, as soon as I discovered that was one of the things for my weight, that was easy to heal, because then I just laughed at myself and said, oh, God, you loved your Nana. You wanted to be just like your Nana. But other things behind my weight, the sexual abuse behind my weight, the abuse behind my weight, that took a little longer because I had to look at stuff I didn't want to look at. And I still have things that it's like, oh, I know I got to look at this, but I really don't want to. But once you do that, once you admit to what you're afraid of and what you're ashamed of, don't have judgment. And shame, it's because we're told to be ashamed of it. But you didn't do anything wrong. You were I hate to say the victim, but you were the person that was transgressed. I don't know if that's the right word, to transgress, but you were the person that was harmed. So don't judge yourself. Don't feel like you're not a good person. So listen to your self-talk. Like, I feel insecure when I'm not in control because I'm being seen as weak. I feel insecure when somebody gets in my face because I'm afraid that they're going to, excuse me, hit me and take advantage of me and to do bad things to me. I'm afraid when somebody raises their voice and turns around quickly at me because I'm afraid I'm going to get hit. All those things you have to work through. And then you reframe the narrative. What is this shadow actually representing to me? What trait is it representing? For instance, perfectionism. There's a lot of women leaders that have perfectionism. Mine is the fear. I have such a deep fear of making a mistake. It reflects a deep, the fear of making a mistake is because I am so afraid of being judged. I'm so afraid of being laughed at that I hesitate to make mistakes. So I have to ask myself, am I going to make a commitment that understand that, yes, I'm going to make mistakes, but it's not going to be life-ending. Nobody's here to punish me for making mistakes. Nobody's here to abuse me for making a mistake. Nobody's here to say you're a complete and total failure and fat piece of poo. Nobody's here to do that. Because if they were here to do that, they wouldn't be in my life anymore. I would evict them from my life. So reframe what you're saying. So I had to sit and say, I am a strong, powerful woman who, as a human being, is going to make mistakes. And as a leader who's got a million things going on and all kinds of people around me, mistakes are going to happen. I must forgive myself. I must forgive the person who makes a mistake in my download. I must forgive transgressions made upon me. And once I was able to forgive myself for mistakes, once I quit going home and crying and thinking, I can't believe that I mispronounced that word today in the board meeting. I can't believe I tripped going up the steps. I can't believe at the DHS meeting I quoted the wrong roles and I thought I was right and I wasn't. And I would go home and beat myself up and actually cry about it and say how stupid I looked. Now when I make mistakes, I shrug my shoulders and say, oh, well, what can I do? I made a mistake. Give yourself grace. Give yourself the permission to reframe your mistakes. If you have self-doubt, to reframe your self-doubts and have a desire to grow. And then get out a journal and start journaling. I journal every day in the morning. Start journaling about what you've discovered. Write down like what 3 things, if you want to start finding things, write down what 3 things you find you dislike about yourself as a lawyer. And then write a positive thing. What 3 things do you dislike about yourself being a perfectionist? And write a positive. Making a mistake, write a positive. Being overweight. And the more you do that, the more you start writing positives, you'll see yourself shifting. And then close your eyes and visualize yourself at that same thing that you keep thinking. But in this visualization, you see yourself as perfect. You see yourself as making a mistake and laughing and saying, oh, well, it happens, doesn't it? And everybody being, oh, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. See yourself saying something stupid and people looking over and saying, I was thinking the same thing. You're right. Or, you quote the wrong role and somebody looks over at you in your visualization and say, I was thinking that was the same role too. I was kind of confused as well. Give yourself grace. Reflip the script by changing your visualization. And it's going to take time. Changing visualization doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, especially the big things you're trying to change. It takes time. Flipping the script on me drinking took time. I mean, when I quit drinking 2 years ago, people were like, oh, you seem like it was pretty easy. No, it wasn't easy. I thought about drinking every day and every night. I had to keep reminding myself why I wanted to quit drinking. I had to keep reminding myself of what shadows were there that made me drink, and that I was the boss and this was going to end. So it's not easy, but I visualize myself sitting, as I'm sitting here right now today, doing podcasts and not being hungover and not being unprepared and not feeling like crap and not being 233 pounds. And I see myself still thinner, still doing better podcasts and still being on big stages. And my book, Blue Rose Bookstore, Sanctuary for Your Soul, becoming a bestseller because this book is going to help change lives. So I want to give you a call to action. I like to give you something to do. Your shadow isn't something for you to fear. It is something for you to bring out, to look at. Find your blue rose that's buried within the shadow. Find who you are within it. And get out the Blue Rose framework, the 7 steps. If you're not sure what it is, shoot me a comment and I'll be happy to send it to you. But you need to become the best version of you. I don't like to say the word need. To become the best version of yourself, you've got to start looking within. And you've got to start looking at the stuff you don't want to look at. And if you need help with that, please let me know. I stopped doing coaching, so I'm not pitching any coaching here. I just ran out of time. But I'd be happy to have an online conversation. I'd even be happy to have a phone call with you, because I want people to understand, once you learn how to heal your shadows, once you realize what they are, there's somebody else's opinion of you, and you pull it out and you look at it and you realize, that's not how I think of myself. Once you do that, things will definitely switch in your life and it'll make a change. So if you have any questions, and also I have a free shadow work 10-page workbook. I forgot to tell you that. Thank God I wrote notes. 10-page workbook. If you're interested in getting that, shoot me your email and I'd be happy to send it over to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you want to talk. If there's anything else you want to talk about in shadow work, please let me know. I believe truly in my heart that shadow work and the 7-step Blue Rose framework has changed my life. Like I said, I quit drinking. I'm much happier. I have more friends. I go out and do more things. I have more confidence in myself as a leader. I don't back down. I don't, quiver. I stand my ground because I'm not insecure, because I was able to change the shadows. Sure, the trauma is still there, but I'm the boss of the trauma. I am the boss. I can own the trauma. And that's, in the Blue Rose Bookstore, we take Annie through her trauma so she can understand that although it was done to her, there is a way for your mind to take charge and to change the story so you can become the best version of yourself. If you have any questions, like I said, let me know. If you want to see that Blue Rose 10-page Blue Rose shadow journal, let me know. I'll be happy to send it to you. Otherwise, have a great day. Happy holidays, and talk to y'all soon.